Hey, it's Jude Falconero, one of the directors of the Dorian series, if you don't know. But yeah, recently I published a novel called Mighty Orenoclaf. That took a long time, but I'm gonna tell you a story, the story of how that all happened. Just give you a little bit of a background of a little bit about this book, about my new novel. It's like a Christian fantasy novel with some hidden meanings within the story. It is roughly inspired by The Hobbit, and yeah, so I'll just share about that now. Tell a little bit how it all happened, how the story came to be. But yeah, so let's go way back. Let's hop back when I was 9 years old. So I was 9 years old, and if it's okay with you guys, I'm gonna be walking while I'm talking. But so I was 9 years old, and I found hidden in this cabinet my mom's book called The Hobbit. And I was 9 years old, so you know how that goes. They don't read too much unless you're a really good bookworm at that age, which most aren't. But yeah, so I read the first page, or roughly a few sentences, and I was like, ooh, that's interesting. So it's the age when you love to pretend you're reading. So I went and I picked up 1,000 page books, and I sat on the couch and I was like, well, look at this, I'm reading this book. When really, I didn't know what 89% of the words meant. I just wanted to look pretty cool sitting on that couch. This huge book, bigger than me, just on my lap. But yeah, so I read a few sentences, or roughly a little bit of The Hobbit, and I was like, that's so cool. But I was 9 years old, and I did not live in a book at that time. That I do more now. I live in books more now. But yeah, so I read a little bit of that, and then I think I ran outside to catch some sun. But but yeah, and then I forgot. I was like, it just went out of my mind, The Hobbit, because I didn't really know what it was, and I didn't, you know, I was 9 years old. And after that, I never picked up The Hobbit until it came to me when I was 12 years old. Who knew that The Hobbit would come back? So I forget exactly how it happened, but my cousin Joe, he heard The Hobbit when he was really young. So he told me about The Hobbit, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I just had a memory of like, this sounds familiar. And of course, The Hobbit is advertised in a lot of places, so that's not too surprising. But I was like, that sounds familiar, Hobbit. Yeah, I should look into that. And then I realized my mom had it. Yes, and then the memory came back. Yeah, I think I read, in the hole in the ground there lived a hobbit, when I was 9 years old. And it all came back, and I was meant to read The Hobbit, but just not when I was 9. I was meant to read it when I was 12. So yeah, so at this point I'm 12. It's October of 2020, and you guys know that year. That was a interesting year. but yeah, so it was the time I was writing to my cousin a lot, because you know, we were kind of just on the internet a lot. And yeah, so I was writing to him, and he was like, The Hobbit, and I was like, okay, The Hobbit, I should check that out, and I did. Most of October of 2020, I was reading The Hobbit, and it was a wonderful experience. The best reading experience I ever had, and like, it was so beautiful, and everything about it was just something so new and rare, like how the book impacted me so much. And it was like kind of widened my point of view, and like expanded my imagination, and it was just a wonderful experience. It roughly took about the entire month to read it, kind of most of the month of October. At this time, you know, I wasn't a big fast reader. I'm still not too fast. I'm kind of just like average reader, maybe a little fast. It depends on the book. If it's like a book I don't really like or something, I tend to read fast or skip over stuff, but if it's a book I love, like The Hobbit, then I like take time to savor it. And I was savoring every chapter. I like read, I think about probably a chapter a day is what I'm thinking. And yeah, so it was wonderful. And when I was finished with it, I think the date comes in my head October 18th, so probably around then. But it was just I was like, once I finished The Hobbit, I was like, that was the best adventure I ever had. And I never knew a book could do that. I mean, I read books, but at this point I didn't read too much. This is like the first real big reading I ever had, I'm thinking. But it was definitely the best book I ever read, and still is. That and the Bible. but yeah, besides the Bible, that is the best book, The Hobbit, I ever read. And I don't know. So after that, so when my book comes in, my novel comes in to this story, is around a month after I read The Hobbit. So here we go. Who knew this could happen? So about a month after I read The Hobbit, I was, I'm thinking so yeah, I just turned 13, and my cousin knew I read The Hobbit, and he said, I think you'll like this book. And he gave it to me, and the book was titled The Wingfeather Saga, Book 1 on the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness. So it was the newer version. It was the one I got it in 2020, November of 2020, and yeah, that was also a wonderful experience. And my grandma gave me the Lord of the Rings. So on the same day, I got The Wingfeather Saga, Book 1 on the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness, and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because I told my grandma I love The Hobbit, best book I have ever read for sure. And then she was like, all right, you want the Lord of the Rings? And I was like, oh, the Lord of the Rings, yes, I heard about this. So yeah, I got the Lord of the Rings and Book 1 of the Wingfeather Saga, two amazing series, and that just kind of started reading. And I think either when I just started into the Wingfeather Saga Book 1 and Lord of the Rings was when a picture appeared in my head. So I forget. I think it was either probably only weeks, like it was soon after my birthday when I turned 13 when the picture appeared in my head. And little did I know that picture would become a book. So, but yeah, so that picture became a book, and it happened slowly, but it was literally, writing this book was like the best writing experience ever. And then again, it was my first bigger book. But before then, I did write short stories. But so okay, how it happened? I've been going a little bit slow, but hope you guys are hanging with me. So yeah, so Mighty Orenoclaf, I had the picture in my head, and then I sort of just had an idea for a book, and I was like, this is so cool. And like, I just kept flowing, like the inspiration for the book. And I wrote my book Mighty Orenoclaf like so regularly. I found a notebook, and then I just regularly just sat down and wrote. And sometimes I wrote a paragraph, sometimes I wrote 2 chapters. But I wrote, and I did it. And what my grandma said was, even the little I did made all the difference. So no matter what I did, it helped in the end. I loved my favorite part of writing the book, my novel, Mighty Orenoclaf, roughly inspired by The Hobbit, was creating the lands, which I just loved how I could like build this world. And the funnest thing about fantasy is you could do like basically anything. you do what you want, and the fun is so fun creating a world. Like, you are in charge of this world, and you can do this. You can like build a world, and you can create all the names of the lands. There's no box for fantasy. You're not like, you don't have to fit in a box for fantasy. You can kind of like step out of the box, step out of the cage, and explore. Let your mind wander through the possibilities, and like just do anything, basically. So fantasy's wonderful. I love fantasy. So this was like a fantasy allegory, my book, but I loved making the lands, and I just went on. World building was my favorite part, definitely. And it was sort of a little bit slow in the beginning, kind of just having the ideas make sense. But then through like the middle, throughout the book, it was just fast. Like it took only like a few months to like write the majority of this book. And it's not long. It was only like 80 pages in the notebook actually, but it got a lot more when I typed out and everything I added. But yeah, but there was this time, as all writers happen, after all the inspiration, all the fast, all the great flowing writing that I had, I just stumbled, and I just like didn't know what to do the last couple chapters, and it was so slow. Like I used to be doing like chapter a day, and now I'm like doing something like, you know, like a sentence a week. And I was like, what's happening? I was like, I didn't know what was happening, but it was meant to be, because I had to like take my time on writing it, and in the end it all worked out, and I finished writing my book on notebook. And after that, I just was like, this was such an experience, starting with reading The Hobbit, going through, and then I wrote my own novel. Like this is something that is new. Like this, you know, it's something that really didn't happen before this, and it was just such a good experience. I was like hyped with creativity, and I was like throughout the book anyway, I loved how I could see pictures in my mind of what I was writing. So I really wanted to draw the pictures because I also like drawing. So I like writing, I love drawing too. So I decided that once I finished writing the book, the rough draft, in a notebook, I would draw pictures for the story. So I drew pictures, and that roughly took a year. And then after that, I started typing it out, and that took like another year. I don't know, something like that. This probably isn't too accurate, but it was just a wonderful journey from start to finish, from reading The Hobbit, starting my book in late 2020, and then finishing it in finishing the whole process, basically finishing the process to this year. So that was wonderful. 2022, 2023, finished this whole process. But I just loved, even when I went back to type out what I wrote in the notebook, it was just a whole new experience. My grandma was editing. She did a wonderful job. She used to be a teacher before she retired, and she did so good with editing. She helped me out a lot there, and parents, everyone kind of helping in one way or another. And yeah, so typing it out was like a whole nother experience. I was like enjoying it all over again. I was like, this is so fun. And actually, like throughout it's hard. I'm like, oh, can I just finish this chapter? But then once I'm done, I'm like sad. I'm like, it can't be over. You know, I can't. This whole journey, it was so wonderful, so beautiful, and I couldn't be like, it's over. But it's not over. It keeps going. The journey's on forever. Maybe yes, the part of my book being published, that is also, it's like what I said in in my book, later on my book, I said that it was like satisfying, sorrowful, and beautiful to bring what I started years ago to an end. And the book is now published. So that's how the whole story, that's kind of my story behind my book. And now it's published, and it's on Amazon. I did self-publishing, and that was really fun. Publishing was probably the part that I was like, oh, publishing. But you know, once it's done published, like, it's so I can't even like describe the feeling to hold your own book. Like it is a wonderful feeling to hold your own book and be like, hey, I wrote this. And like somebody comes to your house and you're like, oh, they're like, what's this book? And I was like, I wrote that. And then they're like, you wrote a book? You wrote a book? Where do I find this? Hey, I've always been wondering how to write a book. Yeah. How can I publish it? I want to publish my book. And I'm like, I'm only 15. but yeah, no, it was like the best experience ever. Honestly. And I can't recommend highly enough The Hobbit. I can't recommend highly enough the Wingfeather Saga, Fablehaven, all these series that inspired me. Narnia, that too. All of these stories and authors that inspired me during, before and during the writing process. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. They're works of art, and you can learn from them. You be inspired by them to write your own. And I hope, like, my book inspires people too. But yeah, it's just wonderful to wonderful to write, wonderful to see your work out there. But yeah, so hope you guys check out my book. It's on Amazon, titled Mighty Orenoclaf. Sorry for the name, it's really hard to pronounce and maybe not hard to pronounce, but it's my last name backwards. So that's the main character's name, Orenoclaf. My last name backwards, so yeah, it's gonna be hard for people to find, but I want it to be unique. but yeah, so I hope you guys like this story of how it all came to be. And yeah, and also I forgot to mention through the writing process, through all of that process, or through like that whole journey, I was also making films. So I never stopped. Part when I was going slower on writing my book was because I was making films. I was making Hunter and Grove, the Dorian series, and now what I'm thinking for the future ahead, since my book's published, now I think sometime I hope to do an audiobook, something like that. And right now I'm mostly working on the Dorian series. So yeah, and the Dorian series, a whole nother story of how that all came to be, how Hunter and Grove and Dorian series all came to be. But I hope you like this story about my book, and I'm gonna go now. But I hope you guys love that story of kind of a background about my novel, sort of something you guys might have not heard before. I don't think most of you heard it. Even people I know haven't heard this story. So, yeah, you guys are privileged. But no, hope you guys just have a wonderful day, and write your own books. I highly encourage people to write books. You will not regret writing a fantasy novel, and you will not regret reading The Hobbit. It is the best book ever written. So, yes, besides the Bible. Yes, but yeah, yeah. So that's basically it. It's basically it for now. Be excited for upcoming episodes. I can't spoil anything. I really want to tell a few things about how we're doing this and what's going on in my episode series, but I can't spoil. But there's a lot happening. I'm always doing something, and it's usually on the creative side, but I'm not stopping doing what I love to do. So yeah, so we just keep working on everything we're working on. So yeah, so have a great April, great Easter week's coming up, Resurrection Week. Hope you guys have a great week then, and yeah, just check my novel, be excited for last episodes of Dorian Series Season 1, and yeah, just have a wonderful month, and hope you guys are doing well, and have a great day. It's great weather where I am at. Hope it's great weather where you're at. But yep, all I'll see you guys around. Nice to tell you this story, but talk to you guys later. Have a great day. Bye.